this started.
More excited than you.
I ain't no doubt. Hey, just a couple updates, you know, on our signing class. All of our signees are on campus except for 4. Right now, Chavis Dawkins is dealing with this little transcript issue, but should be fine, should be resolved. But you know, he definitely may not be in summer 1, but definitely in session number 2. But he will be there. How you doing? What's up? Yeah. Will Putnam, his graduation was later than most high schools, so he will not be able to enroll in session 1. He's got a 4.0, he's exceptionally smart, but he'll be in session 2. Akeem Cooperwood's finishing up a class at GMC, and he'll be fine. And Jamarcus King, hoping to get him enrolled today or tomorrow, but if not, definitely session 2. Just again, a formality, no big deal. He's going to be fine. Just dealing with that right now. But Rendricus Davis is going to have sports hernia surgery, something we knew about a while back. We wanted to get him on campus in order to get that procedure done. And Stephon Taylor had labrum surgery in March, so he'll be a little limited as camp starts there. A little bit on our post-spring injury situation. Alan Knott had surgery on a navicular bone in his wrist that he had struggled with throughout spring, but is going to be cleared for camp. Is going to be fine. 6-week surgery. I mean, 6-week we casted him. It did not heal, and had surgery last week, so he'll be fine. Chaz Elder had a little in the during the open time had a little small crack in his a small bone in his foot, but he'll be fine. He's no surgery needed, but he'll be fine. And Kyle Markway, who had a stress fracture during spring, has come back and he had surgery, but he'll be cleared about middle of camp. And then Sky Moore has a herniated disc in his neck. That's why he missed spring. We've treated it. It has not healed properly, and we had injections and different things doing. So he's going to have surgery Friday to do a level 1 fusion, which unfortunately is 6 months of non-contact. He is going to be fine. This is not a career-threatening situation. This is a very common procedure that is done for herniated disc, and it's unfortunate that it didn't heal on its own. So we're going to have surgery in Charlotte on Friday. He will take a red shirt this year. He has one available, and he's been a 3-year starter and our leading tackler for 3 years. So we're disappointed for Sky, but we need to support him right now. He will graduate in the spring of next year, so it's great that he gets back to come back and graduate and play his senior year. Disappointed for him, but again, this is not a career-threatening situation. This is something that's unfortunate, but we got to deal with it and move on, and I'll open it up for any questions.
Will, could you talk about the support you got from Steve Spurrier and what it means to you?
Right. Well, Coach has been great, whether I was at Florida or at South Carolina, and he's just always been really positive with me as far as, the support and guidance every now and then with some situations. But he's been, there's only one Steve Spurrier, that's for sure, and he's very unique in everything he does. But it's been very, very good to me over the years. Very appreciative for him.
Well, one of the things apparently the coaches are going to talk about is trying to come up with some creative ways, some new ideas on what to do with underclass guys who declare for the draft,
right,
don't get drafted. Is there a better way to get them better information so this doesn't happen? What are your thoughts about that?
Tony, again, I know that Brett brought up some ideas. If the guy doesn't get drafted, come back, and it's kind of like the NBA situation. You're able to go and certainly, anything we can do to give them better information, I'm for, obviously. But we're giving these guys pretty good information. There's some young men that some don't like school, and they're going to go out to the draft. Let's be real, okay? And regardless if they get drafted or not, they think they're going to make it and they're going to be fine. And so at the end of the day, it's one of the most frustrating things that I've had as a coach over the years as an assistant coach and as a head coach is when you've recruited a young man for 2 or 3 years in high school and you've coached him for 3 years in college, and he's making that decision. He's listening to somebody on the street rather than me. So at the end of the day, I do feel like we are getting them decent information. If it's a better way out there to do it, something that Brett suggests, and I'm all for it.
Some of the challenge there, Will, in that even if an underclassman combine's an idea that's been floated, if you have that in January, that could be too close to the season for injuries and those things. And how do you train? Because once they start training professionally, that costs tens of thousands of dollars, and that's what the agents are paying, and you can't have agents involved in the process. There's just a lot of logistics involved with working all this.
There's a lot of issues involved with it, and that's why it's going to be very difficult to do it. Also, the college season now with the playoff is drifting into middle of January. So, I mean, there's a lot of things involved with it. That's somebody besides me is going to make that decision. Whatever we can do better to give them better information, to make better decisions, we're all for it, because the numbers are staggering of the young men coming out for the draft and are not getting drafted. But again, I do feel like we've improved tremendously, and I think the National Football League has helped us tremendously in doing a better job with the evaluation process.
Will, how many things do you know now as a head coach that you thought you knew when you got the Florida job? And just having gone through that, how much better off would you take on this job now?
Well, I wouldn't just say now. I'd say each year you learn what you don't know, and you figure out that you better hire good people around you, recruit good players, do things the right way. We're going to plan on doing that at South Carolina as well, which we did at Florida. So, you know, at the end of the day, we got to, you know, be more productive offensively than we were. And if I had to point at one thing, that's what we need to do, and that falls on my shoulders, nobody else's. So whether it was staff, scheme, whatever you want to put your finger on, what you think is fine. At the end of the day, it's my responsibility. But as far as in any job you're in, whether you're a coordinator or a position coach, the more experience you have at it, the better off you're going to be and the more comfortable you can be. So there's no question about that.
When it comes to these satellite camps and all the extra time for coaches, is that adding such an additional workload for you that you get to spend less time with the players you actually have on campus?
Well, if you're leaving your campus a bunch, yes. I don't plan on leaving it a lot. I plan on taking advantage of, you know, being able to leave our campus to give a little more exposure in some areas that I think are important for us. To evaluate guys maybe you didn't get to evaluate during the spring evaluation period, which that's what it's there for. You know, again, you still have the camp time frame that you're only allowed to work within that time. And we're going to be working anyways on our campus or somewhere else. So I don't see it as a much more workload for us. But we'll take advantage of being able to leave our campus at times. But I still think the most important thing is having the young men on our campus and work them out on our campus. That's the most important thing. If they're not going to make the effort to come in the summer, you're not getting them anyways. So be realistic. You know, if they're not going to come in the summer or spring, you're not going to get them. That's, you know, I've been recruiting for a long time. If you don't get them on campus in that time frame, you're not getting them. So be realistic about where you are recruiting a young man.
What would, if you could change your role, recruiting role, just one role, what would you kind of alter?
Recruiting rule?
Yeah.
You know, I'd be for an early signing date for a young man that doesn't visit, that's going to go to South Carolina no matter what's happening in his life and whoever's coaching there. You know, I think that you know, something that would be well, you know, beneficial for everyone. But again, that's in the South. We're going to be for that. When you coach up in those areas where it's, you know, only really nice for about 3 months out of the year, they don't want that.
Well, with the increase in unlimited texting and DMs and stuff like that, how have you seen that change?
It hasn't changed, because Twitter's like a text to me, and so I would Twitter messages. So now I text. So it's not a whole lot of difference.
With that,
I don't have to worry about it when I'm getting public, which I've made that mistake before.
with that, how much interaction? How much have you seen interaction with the parents change? I've spoken to a few that they don't speak to the coaches at times because there's direct access to the players at all times. So it's kind of parents get left out. How much do you see that changing?
Well, I think in any situation, who is going to help the young man on signing day make a decision, or before signing day make a decision? So I think it's your job as a coach, as a position coach or coordinator or the head coach, depending on the value of that player as your program, is to make sure you touch that person that's going to be making that decision. So if they're going to be a part of the decision process, whether it's an aunt, an uncle, a mom, or a dad, or a brother, I'm going to have communication with them.
The serious misconduct policy was brought up and everything came through last year. Obviously, I know you weren't part of the discussion, but it's being discussed again this year, possible expansion. Are there things you'd like to see it encompass?
Whatever they do is fine with me. We're going to, whether it's a transfer student or a high school student coming into the University of South Carolina, we're going to do things the right way, and we're going to check out everybody's background and what you know, all of those things that are important to representing us in a first-class manner. Sometimes behaviors don't change, so you got to be careful in those situations.
Should it include coaches as well? Anybody who's been fired for either such acts or covering up such acts by athletes?
Again, I'll let them decide that. I'm gonna coach Paul.
You know, what's a thing or two from your Florida experience that you hope to apply here at South Carolina? You know, do better, differently.
Score points.
Can you expand?
That's not just make the scoreboard go up. That's gonna help. That's a nifty device you got there.
You like that?
Yeah, that's big time. The Orlando Sentinel went big time on me, huh?
Yeah, I don't know how much that cost.
Did you expense it?
I didn't buy it.
Okay.
Did you feel like it was just an out of the gates thing? I wasn't there for your first year even with Coach Weiss and stuff, but you think you just got out of the gates wrong there and that just is hard to recover? Is that what it was?
No, I mean, I think you look at every situation a little differently, and I think we did some really good things in that program. We changed the culture of that program. I do know that. And we did a lot of good things, and we played good defense, and we played good special teams, and we cleaned the place up. I do know that. So we need to play better on offense. And again, what I said, whether it was staff, it was scheme, or what, it falls on my shoulders. Let's do a better job. And I think we've hired the offensive staff that is competent enough to do that.
Would you talk about what Kurt Roper brings to the table?
Well, I think he's a really good teacher at the quarterback position. I think he's a really good developer at that position. And I think he's a guy that does a very good job of relating with our players. I think he's a very good play caller and game planner throughout the game week. He understands the big picture of playing in our league and understanding you got to be balanced in what you do. But I also think we've hired an outstanding offensive staff, and I think Sean Elliott's a really good football coach, a guy that I've coached against a bunch. Pat Washington's been a guy that I've got a lot of respect for that's been in our league for a long time and coached multiple spots and positions. Brian McClendon is a very bright young guy that does an outstanding job. I've been really, really impressed with Brian. And then Bobby Bentley is a guy that's had tremendous success in the state of South Carolina, but even more so than that, is a really good football coach and does an outstanding job. So I'm really overall very pleased with where we are offensively as far as our staff is concerned. We've got a lot of unknowns offensively, multiple positions, starting with quarterback. So that's always an issue, and that's the most important position. You've got to be able to have production at that position.
The game video that's coming, the use of it in 2017 at the press box and at halftime, Brett had said it's going to be one of the biggest game changers in college football history. Can you say, as a defensive perspective, what the use of that tool will mean for you, for T-Rob, at halftime and in the box? And apparently it's only going to be broadcast footage, not coaches' film, so what the use of that will be, as useful a tool as it is.
Well, I was in the NFL, so it's a huge part because everything's pictures now, and be able to relate and be able to see a picture of a formation, just be able to see a receiver split, to be able to see the split of an offensive tackle. So all of those things are really critical to be able to do. So everything in pictures as you can draw up and be able to show a player that it's a much easier learning curve for a player as opposed to drawing it on a blackboard.
Brett's floated the idea that, and they've said that apparently if you go to the locker room, the player goes to the locker room, they could be looking at video. Could you foresee the possibility of sending your entire defense in when the offense is on the field to be looking at film that way?
No, we might throw a pick. So we got to have a defense ready.
Would you be in favor of video on the side or photos on the side?
I would be. I mean, that's what we had in the National Football League. So I think that's something that would be great. I mean, I see high school teams in the state of Georgia that are replaying the previous series with their offensive line, with their backs, with their quarterback on the sideline. So certainly I think that would be something that would be beneficial for us.
Is there much difference from that perspective versus still versus video? Would video be a big...
Yeah, it'd be a huge, be able to explain a route concept and a blocking scheme, and any of those things would be a huge benefit for you. But the still shots to me when I was in Nashville, that's all we had, was very beneficial, just from splits and sets offensively, and be able to quickly go through things and just be able to visualize for the players.
The defensive talent you left at Auburn, how do you think they'll fare this upcoming season on defense?
Good. I think you got all the guys back up front. Keeping Carl healthy is critical, and but you got Montravius and Dontavius and Devereaux. Maurice Swain, played well for us. Byron and Jeff, another year is certainly going to help, and obviously, they signed some good guys coming in. But I think the maturity of that first group I mentioned is something that's that can make a difference for you. And then also in the secondary, I think, you know, you go back and look at it. When we lost Josh and TJ, that really hurt us from an experience standpoint, and Josh from a position flexibility standpoint. You know, keeping Trey healthy is going to be critical for him. And then, you know, Carlton played extremely well. Javaris Davis, Jamel Dean, I think is going to be a really good player. But getting those other guys back certainly gives you some experience. And then Nick and Steven played well for us. So we just got to get some, you know, some more linebackers involved. Trey and those guys, and I think Darryl and those guys are certainly capable. But they'll, you know, I think they'll be improved, sure.
Have you talked to Kevin Steele at all?
Yeah, I've talked to
During
Kevin.
that time, just
Sure.
notes.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm pulling for those guys to be successful. I want them, the guys, to win and be successful. So, you know, Kevin will do a good job, and Rodney and Travis and those guys, they'll do a really good job.
Will, have you stayed in touch with anybody back at Florida? And what do you think it'll be like going back there this fall?
Right. Yeah, I've kept in touch with a lot of people, you know. You know, again, we've got a lot of ball to play before we get to that point, but certainly, you know, looking forward to it. You know, it's a great venue to go play in, and looking forward to it.
Will it seem strange being on the opposite sideline, though?
I've been there before. Some Gator fans wanted me there when I was there.
How do you think you'll be received?
No, I'm not real worried about it. I spend zero time worrying about that.
Well, there's some parallels with Kirby getting his first job.
Right.
Major. I mean, you're good friends with him. Do you help him out?
He doesn't need any help.
No.
He doesn't need any help. He'll be fine. No, he's a good football coach. He'll be fine. He'll do a good job. We've talked a lot, and he doesn't need any advice from me. He'll do a good job.
What are your thoughts on tweaking, or if you should tweak the 20-hour rule?
You know, again, I feel like that, you know, we give them a day off during the season, you know. You know, we count 3 hours as toward game day, so really it's a 17-hour rule. But, you know, again, I feel like that, you know, we're very understanding academically, number one, and all situations I've been, I saw some reports where players were saying they couldn't major in something because of practice. That's never been something where I've been. As an assistant coach, and the coaches I work for, some are here, and as being a head coach, I've never run through the situation where a young man couldn't be a part of a tutoring session or a class because of practice. So I don't know that we need to adjust much, in my opinion, and that's just my personal opinion. I do feel like it's important for the players to get away. I think we've done a much better job in the off season, even with the new rules. We haven't really changed our operation as far as how we handle summer. I want them to be able to get away and decompress from us and from football. I think that's really important, and I do feel like we give them enough room. So, again, I'm not totally dissatisfied with the rule right now.
Well, with head football coaches being among the highest paid employees on campus, how much does that translate to having civic or societal responsibility above the football team if conflicts arise or that kind of thing?
Well, regardless of my responsibility within the community, if a young man does something wrong, he needs to be punished for it, and regardless of my role in my situation. So I'm never going to abuse that in any sense. So, but I do think it's important because of the academic athletic balance on a campus to be very visible on campus, which I try to be, and be able, whether President Pastides or Dr. Matchin at the University of Florida, be able to help them in any manner we need to be able to do on campus. So I think that's really important. I met with the Faculty Senate at the University of South Carolina. I met with the Medical Board at the University of South Carolina. So I think in building those relationships, and they see that you are a normal person, that, you know, I think that's really important.
Well, on your speaking tour this past month, I guess you took a couple of playful shots at Auburn, which is not atypical of coaching that. So I just wanted to make sure that something that I heard was attributed correctly. You said that you got a graduate degree from Auburn, but all you had to do was put the tractor in reverse.
That's not totally true.
That's why I asked.
You're always digging stuff. Always doing stuff.
Well, do you like the idea of playing Thursday night?
My sister-in-law went to Auburn. I like to dig her a little bit. But other than that, what's that?
You like the idea of playing Thursday night games?
Sure. I think it's a good deal. Opening college football season, Thursday night game. I'm not as much for it during the season. I think it creates a little bit of your schedule's a little off balance. Unless you have the open week before the game, I think it's okay. You know, I've done it where you play on a Saturday, then you play on a Thursday night. That creates some issues for your 20-hour rule and things like that as far as getting prepared for a game, you know, and also the academic week for a student athlete. You know, I think those are some of the things we need to talk about at some of the Tuesday night games and Wednesday night games and some of the travel involved with all that, as opposed to a 20-hour rule, you know, to be honest with you.
Well, would you be interested in like a clearinghouse for conduct of sorts for high school recruits, where everybody has to abide by the same rules as far as recruiting players?
I mean, yeah, that'd be a lot of work for somebody. We do have a clearinghouse academically, but for conduct, I wouldn't be against it. I mean, I think that's fine. Again, you know, we're going to abide by what we feel like ethically, morally is correct at the University of South Carolina, and we have a certain checks and balances on our campus through our president, through our academic, through our athletic director, through our provost. That you know, we're going to do things the right way.
Well, along the 20-hour rule question, some football players have been surveyed. They say, in reality, they spend 40 to 50 hours per week. Do you believe that? Do you think that's actual?
I don't think that's accurate.
How come?
Because I mean, I've worked at a bunch of places sitting right here, LSU, Auburn. I played at Georgia. They always worked you way too hard at Georgia. That is true. At Auburn, at Texas. And in all those institutions, I don't agree with any. That didn't happen in any of the places I've been. I just, you know. Now, if a young man comes in his building on his own and wants to watch film, is he counting those hours? I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, I mean, some they are. Some are saying travel to games, the meetings before games. So it depends what you're counting.
Right. I don't know.
Anything else for Coach?
Who made you work too much at Georgia?
Huh? Nah, I played under Ray Goff. I'm way before that.
So it was Goff's fault?
Nah.
I got to follow up.
Nah, just kidding. All right, here we go.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Will.
What a tractor in our